Howdy folks, Justice here with another episode of Texas Whiskey Talk, the voice of the Texas Whiskey experience. This show is part 2 of a 2-part series where we visited Gulf Coast Distillers in Houston, Texas. In part 1, we explored the distillery with Julian Geraldo, the head distiller of Gulf Coast Distillers. In part 2, we sit down with Julian in Ben's Den, Gulf Coast Distillers' amazing tasting room, and he walks us through a tasting of their entire lineup of Texas Whiskies. The lineup included their White Dog and 3 different versions of their Giant Texas Bourbon. We talk mash bills, proofs, barrel management, barrel selection. Julian also gives us a rundown on the process to become a certified Texas whiskey, and he gives us some hints on some future products to be released in the future, so you definitely want to tune into that. So I gotta tell you, when I walked into the tasting, I wasn't super familiar with Giant Texas Bourbon, and frankly, throughout the tasting, I'm a little bit speechless. From the start, the White Dog, it's flavorful, it's on point, and I'm used to White Dog tasting like rocket fuel. I think maybe because of the reasonable price point on all their whiskeys, I just underestimated what we were about to taste, but the tasting was awesome, and they just totally nailed it. So the future is definitely looking bright for Gulf Coast Distillers, so you definitely need to get down to Ben's Den and check out their tasting room and check out their entire line of Texas whiskeys. And if you enjoy this episode, join the Texas Whiskey Nation and support the show. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Texas Whiskey Experience and on Twitter at Texas Whiskey EXP. Also, make sure that you subscribe to our show, Texas Whiskey Experience, on YouTube, and our channels on Texas Whiskey Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. If you want links to the show sent directly to your inbox, go to our website, texaswhiskeyexperience.com, scroll down, sign up for our newsletter. And lastly, in late November, be on the lookout for the launch of our online store and pick up some amazing Texas Whiskey Experience swag. And with that, enjoy the show. Cheers. All right, Julian, we just had a fantastic tour, and we've worked up a vigorous thirst here. So what do we got to taste today?
Okay, so this is our main product. This is our Giant whiskey. We are very proud of this whiskey because this is the whiskey that we started with. It's a 21% rye bourbon. We have basically the same mash bill, but at different proofs.
Okay.
The only thing that changes on the 95 is that we do a barrel selection. So when we're going to produce barrel 95, we go out there and we pick the barrels that we're going to use for the barrel 95.
Is that you doing the picking? Who's picking the barrels?
We have a tasting panel in which we involve people that knows about distillation and people who doesn't know about distillation. So we bring people from the office of the coffee side, we sit down with them, and we also bring operators from the distillery. Also the production manager of the distillery and myself are in that panel. So it's usually 3 to 4 people who will sit down together and we will evaluate each sample.
Do you ever need a volunteer to help with it?
Yeah, sure. There's a long line.
Okay.
Long line. So when you're doing the barrel picks, though, are you trying to go for consistency year to year, or are you going for something unique each year?
Something very unique, something that outstands from all the other barrels. So we will pick the barrels that are different than the others. So that's why we have to sit down and literally sample every little barrel.
And so, what's the age range on the barrels that you're picking? I mean,
they go from 2 years, and then the youngest barrel is going to be 1 year.
Okay.
So this is a very grain forward whiskey as of right now.
Okay.
So is there a method to pulling the samples? You know, like cherry picking the barrels or whatever for building that product?
No, well, all of our barrels, they are top fills. So that's the way we operate because all the barrels are aging standing up. So we just grab a set of barrels. They are all organized by production date. So we will just pick, okay, let's pick, we're gonna pick 60% of barrels of 2 years, we're gonna pick 20% of barrels of 18 months, and then we're gonna put 20% of barrels of. That's how we play with it. And then out of those, we'll just pick the ones that had the highest rate for our 95.
Okay. And you said you rotate the barrels in the warehouse. So the guy that's doing that, there's a method to the madness on how he moves the. He's just randomly moving
he knows that the pallets that are at the top have to end at the bottom, so he will just swap the pallets with the forklift.
But as far as like where they're positioned in the warehouse or any of that?
No, we will live in the same location. We'll just pull all the barrels out, and then all the ones that were at the top, they will go at the bottom.
Okay.
All right, so you got them kind of grouped by production.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just asking because like a lot of times, Kentucky, the rick houses, they think there's like the honey hole spots throughout the rick house. So with the guy moving the barrels, I'm just wondering, is that affecting?
Well, the idea behind moving the barrels is to have more consistency.
Right.
That's we want to achieve that. So we want all the barrels to have a very similar taste. And then when we find one that outstands, we say, okay, this guy is going to be for our 95.
Got it.
Gotcha. Okay, well, let's see what we got here.
Sure. So we can start up with our White Dog, which is the one on the very far left, right? This is from yesterday's production. You're going to notice a lot of like floral notes in it and maybe some citrus. That's product, but that very slow distillation. I mean, we really see how different is the White Dog when you do a fast distillation versus when you do a slow distillation.
Okay. That is interesting.
A lot different than a lot of the White Dogs I've had where
that's
some of them taste like jet fuel when you look just it's actually really nice.
You can feel the spiciness of the rye.
I like that.
Yep.
I
okay.
don't do a lot of White Dogs. That one's pretty good though.
Thank you.
And you can, I guess what amazes me is how you guys, as the product's coming off the still, you can really discern, tell a different, for me, it's a struggle with White Dog, but for you guys to make that decision as it's coming off the still before you go and barrel something, whether it's good, and when a Dave Pickerel comes in here to sit there and help you with your mash, I mean, he's tasting White Dog and making all these decisions based off of it. So, and then that turns into a completely different product within 2 years. So
It's even got a touch, almost I won't call it a sweet note, but something that I don't get going. I like that.
what do we got next?
So right now, so next we have our Giant 80. It's 80 proof.
Okay.
This is our most common and easy drink bourbon. It's 80 proof, very smooth, not as woody as other bourbons, but I think it's a really good product. I mean, it's been, as I say, the most popular product as of right now.
I'm getting that chocolate on the nose.
I get that grain for sure though.
Yeah, right up front you will feel the grains, you will feel the sweetness of the corn. Not a lot of vanilla, not a lot of caramel notes, but I think it's very well balanced. Not too harsh.
Hey, why don't I get the reverse Glencairn glasses over here? What's going on here?
There's some over here.
Oh, I think because you know what happened? She thought it was only 2 guys.
That's okay.
So she had to add an extra flight, which was the one for her. And
we'll have the executive producer get her a chance to sample some whiskey here. I got to save some of that for comparison here. All All right, what do we got up next?
So right now it's our Giant 91, higher proof. Obviously, you will pick up different notes at a higher proof. So that's why we wanted to come with a bourbon that it was more for somebody who really appreciates a high proof bourbon. So, and especially for the Texas weather, once you have a high proof bourbon in your hands, if you put an ice, by the time the ice melts down, it's gonna be around 80 or 82 proof, and that's what we want the people to taste.
Okay.
Now, this is the one that won double gold? Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And San Francisco Spirits.
Gotcha. And so when you guys are dumping barrels, what's your exit proof usually?
When it comes out of the still, you said?
No, when you're dumping the barrels for a batch, what's your exit
the
proof?
exit proof, yeah.
118 or so, or yeah, it's close to 120.
So right about where you put it in.
We put it at 120, yeah. So it usually doesn't lose too much of the proof.
Okay. How many barrels do y'all do for a batch?
We do batches of 40 barrels per batch.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now before we get to the 95, you all are producing several other things as well, like the Billy Banks and
Correct. Yeah. We have other products. These are more recent products. We have a Billy Banks rye and Billy Banks bourbon. We also have a Hickory Hill bourbon and rye. We purchased the BJ Hookers, which is a vodka. So we are the owners of that brand. It's a wheated vodka. And we also have another vodka called Round Rock.
Okay.
Right? So those are our basic line of products. But we are also developing new products for the stuff that we have in the barrels. So we have some corn whiskey in barrels that we want to also brand. So we're still waiting for the right time.
So with what's the hill one again?
Hickory Hill.
Hickory Hill. I was about to say Heaven's Hill. I knew that wasn't right. Hickory Hill, Billy Banks, Giant. Are those using different mash bills then? As
Correct.
well?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the idea. That we're gonna use different mash bills. So we will diversify our products, right?
Okay.
So for the Hickory Hill and for the Billy Banks, we're using a lower amount of rye.
Okay.
So because we want our Texan Giant Texas to be a whiskey that has some character. We want it to be very bold, and we want it to be spicy. We like the spiciness of the rye, so we wanted our customers to enjoy that spiciness, and that's why we decided to come up with a higher percentage of rye for our Giant bourbon.
So you guys, MGP may not be the right comparison. Maybe Diageo or Seagram's may be the comparison for what you're going for here.
Well, we're still young. We're growing up, but we want to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so jump into the Giant 95, right?
I'll admit, I had a couple of glasses of this one last night.
Okay.
We have to do some research. This is a tough job, so the nose just gets even better.
And that one won a silver.
He won a silver in the.
My personal palate, I do enjoy. I like that one better than the double gold one. But that's my personal palate.
I agree with you. I mean, but not everybody likes whiskeys that bold or that
Right.
full of personality. I mean, for good whiskey drinkers, that's why we came up with this bottle. We wanted to make it look special. We actually got a call from Willet. Talking about the
Similarity.
design and similarity, but I think the owner Carlos, he went over there. He spoke with the owner of Willet, and he understood that it was a Texan product with a different projection, and they ended up letting us use this bottle.
I mean, they can't just totally monopolize every still design looking bottle, right? I mean,
This one's rounder. It doesn't. It's not, the other one's flatter.
Yeah. I mean, that
people at liquor stores, the owners, they hate those bottles because they take up so much shelf space.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
you want a narrow bottle to maximize shelf
and also
space.
the bartenders, they hate it because it's hard for them to maneuver when they're making the cocktails.
And you can't flip them up in the air.
Yeah. But again, this is a whiskey for connoisseurs. That's what we wanted to come up with, this specific type of whiskey.
So you guys are on the Texas Whiskey Trail.
Correct.
You only got 2 distilleries so far on the Gulf Coast Trail.
Mm-hmm.
You're with the Texas Whiskey Association, obviously. So these are all certified Texas whiskeys.
Correct.
So just give us, our listeners, give them a quick rundown on what that process kind of looks like.
Well, the idea behind that process is that they have to make sure that the whiskey is completely made in Texas. So in order to recognize that, they will make sure that your grains, your mashing, your fermentation, your distillation is taking place in Texas. So they will come here, they'll make sure that everything is done in-house, and once they validate that process, they will give you that stamp that, okay, it's a Texas certified whiskey.
And do they come back out and validate from time to time?
We just got their certification, but
Right.
they say that they'll come back and do like an annual inspection just to make sure that everything is as we told them 1 year ago.
Have you gotten any feedback yet from like consumers on
Yeah,
the certified Texas whiskey? Is it resonating with folks? I mean, I love it as a aspiring whiskey geek, but I'm just wondering, you're Joe Blow at the liquor store. Is it resonating with folks, do you think?
It does. We have received some comments on our Facebook page.
Okay.
People recognizing the difference because before we were not certified, now they see the stamp and okay, what does it mean? So when you explain to them what it means, they like it. Because I mean, we really like local products, authentic products, and I think we're very proud of being a Texan product. So we want to promote that. I think we do really good things here in Texas. We don't have nothing to envy to the guys in Kentucky. We can produce even better whiskey than them. So we should be proud of it, and that's why that stems me that we're making really good products here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So can you give us a hint of like the future, any future products that are coming out, like where the direction y'all are going? Just without giving any too many trade secrets here, but like
Or share the trade secrets.
or share, yeah, or we'll take trade
I
secrets.
think, I mean, there are no secrets in this business. I mean, the only way you can differentiate your product from others is by making it right? So we wanted to be a distillery, a grain to glass distillery, and we are there. But if you look at it, I mean, most of the bourbons they have the same taste. But you're always gonna look for that vanilla, that cinnamon, that caramel, that butterscotch. So what makes you different that the customer will tell, okay, these guys are making it different. Why don't we think about a second aging? Why don't we think about bringing barrels of, I don't know, a port or a sherry cask to give it a second finish to our barrels? That's something that we're considering and we might implement. So those are one of the things that we're thinking about implementing in the future.
So some finished barrel. Okay.
Well, or double barreled even.
Or double barrel, yeah. Why not?
Okay. When do you think your next product's coming out?
It's gonna be, well, our next product maybe in 6 months from now. We're developing a brand, we're developing the bottle. We're just waiting for the juice to get to the proper age, but it's almost there. I mean,
get the TTB to buy off on all the labeling.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a bourbon? Is it going to be a rye? Can you tell us?
Well, it's good. But first of all, we're gonna release our rye.
Okay.
Yeah, because we already have a bunch of barrels of rye aging, so we gotta come up with something for that rye, and we are thinking of launching a Giant rye. That will be our next step. But we also have some corn whiskey, really good for whiskey. I mean, it's aging so good that I would really have to have a really good high premium bottle holding that whiskey because it's really good. I mean, I know most of the people think that corn whiskey is something cost effective, but you can come up with a really good corn whiskey that can compete to any other bourbon.
So a corn whiskey is got to be what, 80% corn minimum?
Minimum, yep.
So what is your mash bill on the corn
It's
whiskey?
99% corn, 1% malted barley.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going all in.
And then how long are you aging it for? What's the goal?
The oldest barrel is 2 years already. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And this whiskey is being aged in bourbon barrels. So it's gonna pick up a little bit of those hints.
So that's why it's not a bourbon, is you're using a bourbon barrel to age
Yeah,
it. I got
exactly.
you. Okay.
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to when you figure out your whiskey coffee crossover between the two companies.
Yeah,
So-
that's still, something that we need to analyze. Well, we're sent some samples of coffee for starch analysis and all that. We want to make sure that it doesn't add any off flavors to our bourbon. But that's something that we can definitely incorporate in our business because we're sitting
Maybe
around a bunch of
you
bags.
could roast the coffee in a barrel to get the char that way, and therefore you get the coffee infused into the barrel itself.
That's not a bad idea. I mean,
Or use the used bourbon barrel to help roast your coffee beans, and maybe they get some, I don't know.
yeah.
I've had a few sips.
Yeah, you have.
Creative juices are
He got
flying
creative.
out.
And with that, we should probably wrap this before the weed speculates on anymore, as he tries to change the workplace environment with coffee infused with alcohol. So
Not a bad idea.
make Monday mornings a lot more
I would.
a lot more bearable. So
I would drink more coffee.
well, all right, Julian. So really appreciate your time. This has been fantastic tour, fantastic tasting. For all you folks out there in the Texas Whiskey Nation, when this tasting room opens, hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, you need to get down to Gulf Coast Distillers. They have a fantastic operation, and be a part of the Texas Whiskey experience.
Thanks for coming.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, folks, that's it for part 2 of our 2-part series at Gulf Coast Distillers. The grand opening of Ben's Den, Gulf Coast Distillers' amazing tasting room, is November 16th, so make sure you check it out. Tune in to our next episode where we visit MKT Distillery in Katy, Texas. Katy is a rice farming community, and Nick and Nikki Jessett, the owners, are doing some interesting things incorporating rice into their mash bills. MKT Distillery will be another 2-part series where we tour the distillery, and then we have another episode where we do a tasting. Thanks again to Allie, the tasting manager at Gulf Coast Distillers, for setting up our visit, and a huge thanks to Julian for being a gracious and humble host. We just had an amazing time. Once again, if you enjoyed the show today, join the Texas Whiskey Nation and follow the Texas Whiskey Experience on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe to our channels on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. And give us a like. Send us some comments. We want to know what you think. Cheers.